Hello, hello, my stars, and welcome back to Sky's Disastrous Life. And today, we are talking about serious things. We're talking about medications and doctors and medical gaslighting. But Sky, medical gaslighting doesn't exist. Yes, it does. Shut up. So, for those who don't know, I don't know how the hell you don't know because it's everywhere. I am neurodivergent. I have ADHD and autism. And I have general and social anxiety and a whole slew of other things like depression, PTSD. You know, that's kind of what happens with mental illness. You get one, you get 20 with it. But I am in a much better place than before. And I've been on medications for quite a while now. And it took me a long time to get on the proper medications. Why? Well, psychiatrists are a good thing. But also, depending on the psychiatrist you get, could also be the worst thing. See, I went to a mental hospital twice. And in my 2 stays there, my first day, they basically said, "Oh, he's fine. He'll be fine." And would you believe I was not fine because I relapsed. And relapsed in this case means that I just fell back down a depressive spiral. Where the whole reason I went to the mental hospital in the first place is because I could barely get out of bed most days. Mom would try to get me up for school, and I just could not. Anytime I went to school, I was having panic attacks so often, Mom would have to come pick me up. And I struggled so much just existing. I wasn't eating. I didn't have an appetite. I wasn't taking care of myself. It was not good. And the school, we tried telling the school, hey, something's wrong. And specifically about the panic attacks, we tried to look into what it would take to have a place where I could go if I was having a panic attack. The problem? They told us, yes, there's a place you can go. And Mom fought tooth and, is it tooth and nail? Whatever the expression is, Mom fought really, really hard to get me an IEP. And we got it. The school didn't follow it. They, in fact, ignored it most of the time. And the room to help me when I had panic attacks, well, you had to schedule to use it. And Mom and I, even to this day, still make jokes of, yes, let me schedule my panic attack real quick. How's 3 p.m. on Friday sound? Because that's literally what they told us. They said, yes, we have a room, and then proceeded to say, oh, no, you have to schedule to be able to use it. Do you know how panic attacks work? Because I don't think you do. So there's that. And then the other thing the school was supposed to be doing that they were not doing is I was supposed to be walked anytime I went to the bathroom. I was supposed to be walked there by an adult. Because at the time, I did hurt myself. And so Mom wanted precautions at school to make sure that I wasn't hurting myself, you know, in a place where she couldn't easily help me or anything like that. You want to know how many times the school actually honored that? Once. They honored it once, and that is only because, despite the fact that I hate math, my math teacher was determined to make sure that my school life was good. Because she was the one who was like, you need to be walked by an adult. And I was like, okay. There's also the thing of I wasn't supposed to use the bathroom with the other kids. I was told I could use the nurse's bathroom for multiple reasons. Those who know, I've trauma dumped a lot on stream, but for anyone who doesn't know, I had a really terrible past, and part of that terrible past, I don't know if I want to say it or not, you know? I struggle with other people seeing my body because of that. Nope, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, erase that. I was sexually assaulted. There you go. I have to put that in the description now. It'll be fine. But because of that, it was why I was told, hey, you can use the nurse's office bathroom over the regular ones because of how uncomfortable I felt in an enclosed area with other people in a vulnerable state, right? So I was told I could do that. However, the nurse's bathroom is locked. The person who has the key is the nurse. The nurse wasn't always in the office. So that was also a thing that wasn't honored a lot, and it ended up being that I just wouldn't go to the bathroom until I got home. Because, again, I felt way too uncomfortable to dare using it with other people around. And so, with all that and me spiraling into a very depressive cycle, Mom bit the bullet. Was like, okay, that's it. And especially with me hurting myself, that was the time that she very much was like, all right, we need to get you help. So we went to a mental hospital. And I took this little test that they gave me. And Mom sat beside me. And they went over it. And they were like, okay, this is what we can do. We have 2 programs. We have inpatient and we have outpatient. We suggest we put him in inpatient to help him get better. And, we asked what's the difference. Well, inpatient, you stay there. I don't remember exactly if they had separate rooms or if you had a roommate, but you were given specific clothes so you couldn't hurt yourself, and you were given activities throughout the day, but you mostly stayed there, and you got like a phone call to friends and family. I don't remember how often it was, but it was that, or outpatient, which was a program where you would go in, do the program, and then you get picked up at a certain time and go home. And Mom and I looked over these, and despite them being like, hey, inpatient, both knew if I was an inpatient, I'd get leagues worse. Because despite us telling them, hey, social anxiety and abandonment issues, where he gets very, very scared when his people aren't around him. They really wanted to put me with a bunch of strangers and not allowed to see anyone I knew, only at specific times. So, evidently, both Mom and I were like, nope, outpatient it is. And they're like, okay, fine. You can do outpatient. It is up to you. And the first time I did outpatient, I followed their things, and it was very clear I was depressed and that I was struggling with sleep, and it was interesting. Because the first time I remember going through and thinking, how is this helpful? What am I doing here? I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. Why am I here? In general, you know? And it was after that one that they told us, yeah, he's fine. He doesn't need medication. I didn't do anything during these activities and programs. I sat in the corner more often than not, just staring blankly at people. Of course, sign of the most healthiest kid alive, apparently. And so, yeah, I went back through a depressive spiral. Went in the second time. This time, they said, okay, no. He does need a psychiatrist. He does need to get on medications for certain things. And this time, it went very differently. As this time, I was able to get help. This time, I also felt less alone, as I had met others who were roughly in my same age group, who also went through very shitty things that we could bond over. And none of us were allowed to give out phone numbers. So, sad to say, I could not keep in touch with them. But it was really nice to not feel alone and to feel like, hey, we're in this together type of thing. So, I got the psychiatrist. Psychiatrist was like, okay, here's this medication for anxiety and depression. And then you're good to go. And we said, okay. And then I started taking them. And they did not work. And it was like, okay, well, are you taking them regularly? Yes. Okay, we'll put you on a different one. Put me on a different one. Proceed this several times of me being put on a different one, put on a different one, put on a different one, put on a different one. One of those ended up being a thing that I still struggle with to this day, where I took the medication and I sat down next to the medication bottle doing my own little thing. And I looked at it and I didn't have control over myself as I picked up the bottle and I poured it into my hand, like a bunch of the pills into my hand. And I lifted it up to my mouth and I swallowed them. And after they'd already gone down, it was like I came back into feeling my body, and I quickly ran to Mom and cried. Luckily, I am fine. I am alive, as you can tell. But it was a terrifying experience, and it's a reason why I struggle to refill my pills alone. It takes me quite a bit to do it because I just remember that feeling of not being able to control myself. And lots of medications down the line, we come to the slight realization. Wait, I have ADHD. wait. So what was happening was I was taking antidepressants that were helping with the depression, but the ADHD symptoms were falling in line with the depression symptoms. Hence why it felt like nothing was happening. So proceed a medicine change up, got on something for the ADHD. And who would have guessed? I was starting to feel much, much better. Only problem is, slightly lost a lot of my personality when on these meds, but it worked. And then I also had to go through a fight of them trying to put me on sleeping medication because my insomnia was very bad. Still is bad, to be honest. But they constantly put me on these meds, and they would constantly not work. And at some point, it was just like, stop. I don't want to be taking these medications that aren't working. Please. I am sleeping. I know it's not healthy sleep, but I am sleeping. So eventually we got a psychiatrist that said, okay, as long as you're getting the 8 hours you need, you're fine. And I appreciate the hell out of him. I wish he was still my psychiatrist. He's not. Because he's moved on to a different group, I think, where he's working with alcoholics now. And I got a new psychiatrist, but hopefully he put in my notes of like, do not give sleeping medication, please. But yeah, so all these medications have sort of given me this realization. Some people don't listen. And recently there's another incident of some people don't listen. Because some of you know, I am, or technically was at the current moment, I was on what I assumed were hormone blockers. Until a friend of mine and I were talking, and they asked about my medications. So I told them what I was taking. And I ended up looking up the hormone blocker. I was curious, what all it did. It's not a hormone blocker. It's a birth control. Proceed the confusion from me, because while on this hormone blocker, I was asked if I wanted to take birth control, and I said no. I didn't have a need to take birth control, and all the side effects paired with my other medications, I didn't want to deal with that. So why the fuck was I on a birth control? And the problem is that medication did block my period. However, that's the only hormone blocking thing it did. I basically still went through puberty, and that pisses me off, because we were not told this. What we were told was that I was going to be put on a puberty blocker that would stop puberty, period. That I wouldn't get my period anymore, that I wouldn't develop, and it was fine. We were okay with this. Evidently, that's not the case. That's not what happened. Instead, it just happened to be a case of I got really fucking lucky, and because the birth control isn't supposed to stop your period. However, because my flow was so light, it did. And suddenly things were making a lot more sense. I hate the fact that we were lied to. I hate the fact that I thought I was on this thing, and I wasn't. But yeah. That happened. And the worst part about this is I'm not, as angry as I am, I'm not surprised this happened. As this doctor had always argued against the fact that I wanted to be on a puberty blocker. Always argued with the fact of, but are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm very sure. Swear to ya, I know myself. But yeah. The good news is, at least my other 2 medications are in fact things that are what we asked them to be, are what I need. And I've actually gone lower on a dosage of one of my medications, so I have more of a personality now. Hello. Yeah. It sucks. It sucks when you say, hey, I know what I have, I know it's this. Others have said that it's this. I have proof that it's this. And the doctor still doesn't believe you. And I got extremely lucky where my mom has also experienced stuff like that. Because if she hadn't, I don't think she would have fought as much as she does for what medications I was on and whatnot. But she's experienced that, having her own, hey, don't put me on that, I know what that does to me, I can't have that, and doctors saying, yes you can. One of those being that recently the doctors want her to start taking this medication that she quickly found out is just another medication under a different name that she's already taken in the past, that she's told them, I don't want to take that. Reason being, it makes her so tired that she can't do anything. And she doesn't want to deal with that. And it also makes her very, very irritated. Something she also hates. And there's been multiple like that. There's also been us saying, hey, we can't have that because an ingredient in it is in the chamomile family. And too many members of my family are allergic to chamomile for any of us to try to see if I'm allergic. It's just one of those where we all are like, nope, no touchy, no drink, no eat, you know? And it's annoying that some doctors literally will not listen to us when we say that. And we have it down in our medical records. It just, they don't want to acknowledge it. Something else is my mom has fibromyalgia. There we go. I think I said that right. And it is an invisible disability, I believe is the right word, that it makes it very hard for her to move sometimes, and it feels like there's crushing weight on her, and she can't touch anything, she can't be near anything, because everything hurts. Picture in your head that you're just laying down to go to bed, and suddenly you can feel every single hair on your head, and every single one hurts like it's being actively ripped out. That's kind of a fraction of the pain she feels sometimes. She's described it as several things, of like a hawk digging into her back, as an elephant sitting on her chest. And it's sucks, because there's really nothing we can do. But so many doctors have waved off this this horrible pain that she clearly experiences as just in her head. And it pisses me off when they do that. It really does. There have been times where we'll mention something and the doctors will go, no, it's probably something different. I remember we had a male doctor where I talked about having a migraine, and his immediate response was, oh, it's probably your period. And I didn't strangle him, but I did politely say, sir, I guarantee you it is not. It is after I ate this certain food, and so I was wondering if it could have been this certain food that was the cause of it, or that it's the heat. I just wanted to ask your professional advice, but if you're gonna say it's my period, even though it's nowhere near my cycle time, I'm never going to ask you again. And big sister and mom have gotten the same thing when they've mentioned, just not even just to medical professionals, just offhandedly, like, oh, I got a migraine, of like people going, oh, your period? No. For mom, it's even more annoying when she's not had her period for several years now, as she is an older woman, and it's like, when people do that. And the reason why those two would get migraines is because chocolate, certain types of chocolate, will give them migraines. So far, I haven't been given this, which I'm thankful for, but we all three are lactose intolerant, so I'm not holding out hope. At any moment, I might be banned from chocolate. But point being, it sucks that you can know something and have several, instances, several things where you can go, hey, I know it's this, and people just don't listen, especially medical professionals. On my medical records, I know for a fact it says I have gender dysphoria and I have body dysphoria. Dysmorphia, I believe, actually is the right word. Point being, it is on my medical files because it was not just put there by one person. It was put there by my doctor, like my doctor I go to checkups for. It was put there by my therapist. It was put there by my psychiatrist. It was put there by my endocrinologist. Like, several people have confirmed that I have those. That it's not just something I randomly woke up, said, I have this now. That they, in their medical professional opinions, know I have, based on how my experiences are. And I will still have doctors go, are you sure? And I'm so grateful that my endocrinologist never did that to me. All their staff at that hospital did not at all question me about it. They believed me immediately, did not matter what I was wearing, and I was quite happy about that. It made getting testosterone so much easier, and I really loved being on testosterone. Part of me wants to go back on it, but the other part of me is like, I am comfortable where I am now with the changes I have right now. But yeah, I understand not wanting to believe someone right off the bat because of the internet, and that some people will read something and go, oh yes, I have this. I do understand that. It's a little less understandable when several other people have put on that person's record that yes, they have that, and you still go out of your way to say, but are you sure you have that? No, I just woke up with it one day. Yes. Yeah. Also, I've had people not believe that I have anxiety. Or when I say I have anxiety, be like, everyone has anxiety, you know? And it's like, I don't think you understand. My social anxiety makes it so that it's impossible for me to talk to anyone out in public. Sky, that's just being introverted. Really? It's being introverted when you're at a fast food restaurant and you go up to the cashier and suddenly it feels like the entire ground has opened up and is sinking you in, that you can't hear a word because there's ringing in your ears, that you can't see anything because everything's blurred. That's just being introverted. That you feel like there's a giant hole in your back as you attempt to say something, where it feels like there's dozens of eyes watching you as you fail to say a single word, judging you, saying awful things about you, even though you know that that's not the case. That's just being introverted. Giving yourself a panic attack because the idea, the thought of something happening to the person you love occurred because they're taking too long at the store. It's just being introverted. For those wondering, yes, I've had panic attacks over, not anymore, thanks to my medications, but before I was on proper anxiety medication, I would have panic attacks when Mom would be at the store and it'd get later and later, and I'd get worried and my brain would start going through so many possibilities, from sinkholes to car crashes to kidnapping. And oftentimes during those times she'd find me sitting next to the door, and when she came home I'd cling on to her and not let go. That doesn't happen anymore. I do get a twinge of anxiety when it takes, a while for her to get home, but it's not panic attack and not able to do anything anymore. But yeah, what was the point of this episode again? I went off on too many tangents. Anyway, stars, don't let people tell you that you're what you feel and information that you know and have like proof about is wrong, especially when it comes to your own body. Only you know your body the best and mind the best. So yeah. Anyway, see you all next time, and keep on shining.